Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I want to talk about e-scooters because e-scooters, quite frankly, could get you hacked. Now, here's what's going on, and before we dive into that, let's talk first things first about mobility, or in this case, micro-mobility vehicles. Cities, especially here if you're in the United States, literally have seen an explosion of micro-mobility vehicles. These are things like scooters. I was recently in San Diego, and you could literally walk down the street and just pick up a scooter, connect to it with your smartphone in the app, buy some time, and then off you go, assuming that scooter has charge. We are seeing cities littered by these kinds of scooters, and quite frankly, a lot of cities are okay with this because they believe that in many cases they are going to relieve traffic congestion for short trips. So instead of, let's say, hopping in a cab or getting an Uber and being one of the zillion cars on the road, you can simply hop on a scooter, roll down the sidewalk faster than you can walk or jog for most of us, and here we are. Now, here's the thing though, these things are rather vulnerable in ways that a lot of people don't necessarily realize, and new research out of the University of Texas at San Antonio proves just that. Researchers there just published the first review of security and privacy risks posed by e-scooters and the related software services and apps. Now, the assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science who led this study, his name is Murtuza Jadlawala, said, and I quote, we were already investigating the risks posed by these micromobility vehicles to pedestrian safety. During that study, we also realized that besides significant safety concerns, this new transportation paradigm brings forth new cybersecurity and privacy risks as well. And I find this absolutely interesting. And before we dive into those cybersecurity risks, there is some truth to what this professor is saying, in the sense that I can't tell you how many times I've almost been mowed over in major cities where I see these scooters everywhere. Now, back to cybersecurity. According to their research and their review, basically attackers can cause a series of attacks on these things, including eavesdropping on users and even spoofing GPS systems to direct riders to unintended locations. So basically, vendors of e-scooters can also suffer denial of service attacks as well as data leaks. We are talking about poor app development, not to mention poor communication between the mobile phone that you're using to connect to the scooter and the scooter itself. To quote Jadlawala again, and I quote, we've identified and outlined a variety of weak points or attack surfaces in the current ride-sharing or micromobility ecosystem that could potentially be exploited by malicious adversaries right from interfering the rider's private data to causing economic losses to service providers and remotely controlling the vehicle's behavior and operations. I read that verbatim as it was quoted in the article, so excuse me if that one sentence didn't make sense, but I think you get the gist of it. Now, some e-scooter models are communicating with the rider's smartphone over low-energy Bluetooth or Bluetooth low energy, and basically there is the ability here to eavesdrop on these wireless channels, listen to the data exchanges between the scooters and the smartphone, and basically run what's called an MITM or man-in-the-middle attack using basically free software like Wireshark. Another one is Ubertooth, for example, if you've never heard of that one, to basically do these kinds of things. And by virtue of that, we can start stealing information directly from the phone. It's just straight up poor development. So when you sign up for an e-scooter, they also offer, according to this report, when you sign up for an e-scooter, you're also giving them a good deal of personal and sensitive information just beyond billing, which you're obviously giving them as well. According to their study, providers automatically collect other analytics such as location and individual vehicle information. So by virtue of this, you can aggregate all of this data if you're an attacker and generate an individual profile that can even do things like locate the rider's preferred route, personal interests as they've inputted it into the app for whatever marketing and analytics reason the app wants to collect that for, as well as home and work locations. So imagine if you've tapped into this and somebody takes one of these e-scooters around continuously when they leave their home to go to work. You're going to know when they're not home. And if you are a burglar with any, let's say, modicum of ability to look up an internet search, download a free app like Wireshark or Ubertooth and go to town on this thing, you quite frankly can have a map of where people will and will not be, not to mention stealing personal data, which is always a hot thing to sell on the dark web. So here we are. I think it's very interesting. I personally have not used an e-scooter myself. I like to walk when I'm in cities, especially when I'm visiting places. But I do understand the appeal, and outside of potentially being mowed over by these things, they are a pretty quick way to get around. But is it worth it if it's going to be basically leaking your data or give somebody the ability to steal information from you? So take that for what it's worth. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but that is your e-scooter news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.